everyone, and welcome back to Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives. I am your host on this journey of women's leadership. And so today I want to spend some time just kind of giving you more of a background about me and discussing a topic that is near and dear to my heart, which is self care. June is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so it is so important for us as women in leadership to take out the time to take care of ourselves. So I am your host, Cherie Wiley. I am a business owner. I'm the founder and CEO of Diverse Perspectives. I'm also a educational leader. I'm a writer. I'm a consultant. I do all the things. And so I have 15 years of experience in the field of education. And in this time and in this space, I have seen so many different things, so many ways that women lead, in ways that, they show up in ways that are positive and sometimes ways that are not so positive. And a lot of that really is impacted by our mental health and where we are, just in general. A lot of times leaders show up in ways that, are on their heart and on their mind. And so if they're dealing with something, sometimes we feel it as those who they are leading, and they are trying their best in order to find that balance. And that is so, so very important and necessary. And I'm learning on my leadership journey how to maintain just positive environments and positive interactions with those that I lead, as well as those that are in leadership of me, because there are times when I am not the leader in the room, and I have to learn to balance those dynamics as well. Even though I am a natural leader and I show up in spaces with a strong personality and confidence in that area, I never want for any other leader to feel intimidated, because we know, especially us as women in leadership, a lot of times there are spaces where people don't respect the positions that we hold, and so we are oftentimes trying to juggle that space as well, and all of that impacts our mental health and the way that we show up. I was thinking about the other day that I remember being in roles where I became or felt physically ill when I would come and arrive in that space. It could be in a parking lot, it could be when I hit the door, and it was because that space itself was toxic, and it was a space that really I didn't belong in. And mentally, I knew that this is not the way that it should be. I shouldn't feel this way. I should want to come to work. I should want to show up in these spaces. I should feel like I'm able to show up as my best self. But that wasn't the case. And that impacted my mental health. And a lot of times we're dealing with that because it could be a number of things. There could, again, be people that are challenging our leadership. There may be males who don't feel like we should be in those roles. And sometimes it may be other females who also don't feel like we should be in those roles. They may be dominant in their own right and they don't understand how to follow. And that is the best example of leadership, right? We have to learn how to follow in order for us to lead. And so when you put all of that in the mix, it requires us to be very intentional about how we take care of ourselves and what we put value to, right? And so, in some of the other podcasts we've kind of touched on this importance of having balance, and that is all part of our mental health. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, self-care is part of that balance. And a lot of us don't necessarily understand what self-care is, right? Because we are being everything for everybody. I am a wife, I'm a mother, I'm also a business owner, I also still work a full-time job. And so in those moments when you're trying to figure out how to just make space for you, it sometimes feels like there's no time for you to do that. However, it is so important, because we cannot be our best selves for others if we don't learn how to be our best selves for us. We have to take care of us in order for us to take care of them. And that comes up over and over and over again. I've had conversations with so many female leaders who all are struggling with that same thing, right? Because sometimes we even feel as though it's not okay for us to be anything other than what we are inside of those spaces, right? So if I'm boss, I can't be mother, right? I can't not come to work today because my child is sick. I have to figure something else out, because then somehow my ability to lead is questioned because I also need to be there for my child, right? And those things happen. It could be a family situation where we are charged to take care of a relative, a loved one, and we have to make choices. And a lot of times that leaves us feeling lacking in some way because no matter what, it feels like we're going to let someone down. And so those are the reasons why taking out the time to really balance ourselves, to really put ourselves back in alignment with what the original plan is and was, is so very important. And so with self-care, we have to take out the time to take care of ourselves. And self-care can look different for different people. It's about what you enjoy, right? And that's what really what it comes down to. If your idea of self-care is cooking a full course meal because you like to cook, then that's your idea of self-care. And you stopping everything and taking out the time to cook that meal and share that with people that you love, that is the answer to you finding yourself and you getting yourself back in alignment and balancing yourself. For if it is that you like to go shopping, that's self-care. If you want to go get your nails and your feet done, also self-care. For me, self-care is me getting my hair done. That is something that relaxes me. Having the opportunity for, me to get pampered in that moment, having a spa day, going to get my feet done. Those are things that bring me joy and relax me. Another thing that is near and dear to me, because I again mentioned that I am a writer, I also love to read. My first love was reading because it is what started me down the path of writing and helped me to become a strong writer. But in those moments when I need to recenter myself, reading a good book, a book that actually speaks to my soul, is something that is so very necessary. And I actually started out this year reading this book, which is called 40-Day Soul Fast by Dr. Cindy Trim. And it was actually a book that we read with our church. And so when I started out with this book, I was like, okay, I'm not, really sure because again, anyone who knows me well knows that I'm a Christian, all the things, right? And so, when I think of fasting in the past, people do fasting in different ways. I think of going without food, certain types of drinks, those sorts of things. And you can fast from all different types of things. And sometimes that may be part of your self-care because it does help you to realign with the values that matter to you most. But this particular book is not talking about fasting from food. It's not talking about fasting from, drink. And you can do that as you go along this journey. But this book is talking about fasting from the things that negatively impact our souls. And again, that is directly tied into our mental health because as I went on this journey, there were so many issues that I had to unpack and deal with that really were impacting my mental just stability in general. Things that even simple things like self-doubt and lack of confidence in certain areas was impacting the way that I showed up. And so I just recently was on another podcast and I was talking to that host about imposter syndrome, which is real, especially for us that are in leadership. And so if you don't know what that is, imposter syndrome is where you're in spaces, but you feel like you don't belong there because no one in those spaces looks like you. No one in those spaces shows up like you. You feel as though you have to either change the way you are or the way that you are is not good enough. And so that is a real mental struggle because when you lack that confidence in those spaces, it comes out one way or another. And as I mentioned before, that's why sometimes you have leaders who show up in ways that are just deplorable, right? Like you don't even want to be around them because they're dealing with their own struggles, whether they want to admit it or not. And it could be imposter syndrome that they feel like they have to overcompensate, be more mean, more, more demanding, less understanding because they don't feel confident in the role that they are in. And so they take it out on others. And so all of those things are things that need some attention, right? And so as I was going through this journey, that allowed me to do that, to pay close attention to those areas that were impacting the way that I showed up, the way that I, interacted with other people, the way that I lead, right? And so we need to just be intentional about the things that really impact the way that we interact and that we show up each and every day, because that is a key part of our mental health and this mental health journey. We as women leaders also need to understand that part of our self-care is us having safe spaces where we can show up authentically and have those conversations with people who understand, which is why this podcast in particular is so important to me, because that is my heart and my desire to create a space where other female leaders can show up, can be okay with being vulnerable, be okay with being authentic, be okay with being themselves. Because when we continue to wear the mask each and every day, and all of us have, if we're honest with ourselves, can admit that there have been times in our lives where we have worn the mask, right? We have shown up and tried to be something different because we thought that who we were was not good enough. When we wear that mask for too long, that mask impacts our mental health. It impacts the way that we feel. It impacts the way that we carry ourselves. It impacts the way that we interact. And that is just simply not healthy. You can only go so long wearing that mask before the mask begins to break down. And if you think that it's not breaking down, really consider where your joy is. Are you at peace when you are in certain spaces, when you know in those spaces you have to put the mask on until you're out of those spaces? And if the answer is no, and I guarantee you it is, you really need to think about what needs to happen for you to find that peace again. And I understand we all got bills to pay. We all need to do what we need to do. But we need to find a space and a time to align ourselves and to adjust those things and understand, hey, you hired me in this space. You wanted me as leader because you saw the value in who I really am, hopefully. And if that's the case, I shouldn't have to become someone else during the time that I'm in your presence in order for me to be able to do my job. And that's what happens a lot of times. We check off a box and then it's like, oh no, you being you might not necessarily fit here. I need you to be somebody else. But I'm telling you that your mental stability, your peace, your health, because when your mental is thrown off, your body will start to react as well, is more important than the need for someone else to put you inside of a box in which they want you to feel, but you are lacking in some way. Because eventually the box is going to crumble. And what a lot of companies need to understand, and we'll talk about this more as we continue in future episodes, is that there's so much value in allowing people to show up as their best selves instead of creating environments where people have to become something different, because those different perspectives of authenticity actually add value to the company and take the company to the next level. And so again, self-care, self-care, self-care. Whatever you have to do to show up as your best self on a regular basis is what needs to be done. And again, I'm not telling you you'll need, if your way of self-care is for you to take a bunch of days off, don't do that. Your company needs you to show up and to be your best self. But there are other ways that you can do, just small things. If you enjoy some sort of tea that you like to drink every day at the end of your day so you can unwind and reset. If it's you want to spend time with your family, you make a family night, or you want to spend time with your spouse and y'all have date night, whatever brings you joy and helps you to refocus what it is that you're doing, that's what needs to happen on a regular basis for you. And you need to make it a priority. You need to make a priority to say every other Thursday from 4 to 5, I'm going to go and I'm going to get my nails done, and this is going to be my time. My family knows it. My husband knows it. My children know it. This is what I do, because when you come back, I guarantee you they'll like you more. because you will have had time to readjust yourself and to just find your happy place. Again, I highly recommend, if you are looking for something to kind of reset and recharge yourself, we're halfway through the year, checking out this particular book. As you see, it is very obvious that I really dug into this, took my time, and really spent time. There are questions throughout that help you to focus in on really answering the questions that matter most. But I will say that this year has been the most impactful on my leadership style, because it helps me deal with me in order for me to deal with the way that I interact with others. And that is just so powerful. Again, I am founder and CEO of Diverse Perspectives, Cherie Wiley. I'm your host for Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.